I am 76 years old, and my house is quiet in a way I never imagined it would be. Not peaceful, just quiet. The kind of quiet that settles in and stays. I did not sit down to tell this story because I think it will fix anything. I am past the age where I believe words can repair what time has already taken. I am telling it because I finally understand something. An understanding arrived long after it could help me. My children stopped coming home years ago. Not all at once, not after a fight or a single mistake. They just came less. Then rarely, then not at all. For a long time, I told myself it was normal. They had their own lives, jobs, children, responsibilities. That is what we raised them for, I thought. To leave. But that explanation only works for so long. Eventually, you have to sit with the silence and ask why it sounds the way it does. These days, my mornings start slowly. I wake up earlier than I want to, mostly because my body does not know how to sleep in anymore. I make coffee for one. I still use the big pot, out of habit. I drink it at the same table where we once squeezed in homework, arguments, laughter, and rushed breakfasts. I look at my phone more than I would like to admit. No messages, most days. Sometimes a photo, a birthday reminder, a forwarded article that says more than the few words attached to it. I do not blame them anymore. That took a long time. When you're young, you believe distance happens suddenly. You imagine something dramatic, a falling out, a slammed door. But most real damage does not announce itself. It accumulates quietly while you're busy being reasonable. I was not a bad parent, at least not in the way people usually mean when they say that. I worked, I paid bills, I showed up when I could. I believed providing was the same thing as caring, because that's what I was taught. In my 20s and 30s, life felt urgent. There was always something to build, something to secure. I told myself I was doing it for my family. And that was not a lie. It just wasn't the whole truth. I left early most mornings. The kids were still asleep or half awake, eating cereal while I rushed around looking for my keys. I would kiss the top of their heads and say I would make it up to them later. Later became a very comfortable word. In the evenings, I came home tired. Not the kind of tired that makes you quiet, the kind that makes you impatient. I wanted peace, silence, a chance to sit down without being needed. They wanted stories, help with homework, someone to listen to what happened that day. I told myself there would be time on the weekend. Weekends filled themselves with errands, repairs, and obligations that felt important at the time. Birthdays were celebrated, holidays happened, photos were taken. From the outside, everything looked fine. Inside, something was thinning. I did not notice it then. You do not notice what fades slowly. When my children were teenagers, conversations became shorter. I thought that was normal too. Teenagers pull away. Everyone knows that. When they spoke, I listened with half my attention. I nodded while thinking about work. I gave advice when they wanted understanding, solutions when they wanted to be heard. I told myself I was preparing them for the real world. What I was really doing was teaching them I was not a safe place to land. They learned not to linger. They learned not to share the parts of themselves that did not neatly fit into a problem I could solve. I did not realize that silence can be learned. The first time one of them did not come home for a holiday, I shrugged it off. Schedules conflict, life happens. The second time, I felt a pinch of something I did not want to name. By the third time, I felt embarrassed to ask. Phone calls became updates instead of conversations. 10 minutes, 15 if I was lucky. Enough to say everyone was fine. I was proud of them. I still am. They built lives. They became capable adults. They did not need me. I told myself that was success. But pride is a poor substitute for closeness. The truth is, I trained myself not to need them either. Needing people felt dangerous. If you don't expect much, you can't be disappointed. That was another lesson I passed down without meaning to. The cost did not arrive all at once. It arrived in missed school plays because of late meetings, in postponed talks that never came back around, in assuming there would always be another chance. I remember one evening clearly. One of my children stood in the doorway while I watched the news. They wanted to tell me something. I could feel it. I said, "Not right now. Can it wait?" They said yes. It could not. I do not remember what they wanted to say. I only remember the look on their face when they walked away. Years later, I would give anything to hear it. The turning point did not feel dramatic when it happened. That's the part people don't tell you. It was an illness, not mine. A scare that shook the family enough to bring everyone back together for a moment. We sat in a hospital waiting room, older now, more guarded. I realized I did not know how to talk to my own children anymore. I asked practical questions. They answered politely. There was love in the room, but it felt careful, measured. That's when it hit me. Not at once, but clearly enough that I could not push it away. I had not lost them to distance or time. I had lost them to my absence while standing right in front of them. I had been there physically, but not emotionally. And children know the difference, even when they cannot name it. After that, I tried to fix things. Of course I did. I called more often. I asked questions I should have asked decades earlier. I told them I loved them. It felt strangely formal by then. They responded kindly. That might have been the hardest part. Kindness is not the same as closeness. It is what you offer when you don't want to reopen old doors. Some things, once closed, do not open the same way again. Now, at 76, I understand why they stopped coming home. Home was a place where they learned to be efficient, responsible, and quiet. Not a place where they felt fully seen. I didn't mean to teach them that, but intention does not change impact. There are things I cannot fix now. I cannot go back and sit on the edge of their beds a little longer. I cannot rewind conversations and listen instead of lecturing. I cannot trade one more meeting for one more unhurried afternoon. Time does not negotiate. I have photographs. I have memories that arrive out of nowhere and leave just as quickly. I have a house full of echoes. I also have love. That never went away. But love, by itself, is not always enough to keep people close. It has to be felt. It has to be experienced, not assumed. If you are listening to this and you still hear footsteps in your home, pause once in a while and really notice them. If someone wants to talk and you think it can wait, ask yourself why you are so sure it should. I'm not telling you what to do. I wouldn't dare. I'm only telling you what I learned when there was no longer any urgency left, when the days stopped asking for much and started taking things instead. There's a version of me my children know well. Responsible, reliable, distant. There's another version they barely met, the one who could have sat longer, listened deeper, and spoken less. I live with that now, quietly, daily. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect anything at all. I'm grateful for what I had. I'm sorrowful for what I assumed would always be there. If this meant something to you, sit with it for a moment. You don't need to rush to act or fix anything. Just notice who is still close enough to hear you say their name. As for me, I'll finish my coffee. I'll straighten the house that no longer gets messy, and I'll hold this understanding gently, because it came at a cost I cannot undo. At 76, this is what I know. Some lessons wait until there's nothing left to trade for them.